Okay, so hello everyone. I am very happy nga daghan kadyong nakakuha og highest score, perfect score sa atong pre-midterm exam. Okay, so I am pretty sure nga ni tan-aw jud mo sa mga pre-recorded videos, sa mga PDF nga akong gihatag ninyo, no, akong gi-post sa FB group. Okay, so sa uban, no, better luck next time na laman, no. I am quite disappointed kay kasagaran papreha jud mo answer, no, gikan sa Google, no, nga very easy ra man ang taon ng exam. Okay, so sige ra laman. So again, continuation. Okay, so no, again it derives from two Greek words, anthropos and logos, no, which means human and study. Okay, so another key element that makes anthropology holistic is its research time frame, no, which ranges from the evolution of humans as a species to our current development. And it also studies humans from various ethnic groupings and geographic location. As such, anthropology can also be defined as the study of people, no, their origins, their development, and contemporary variations wherever and whenever they have been found on the face of the earth. Okay, so these points of inquiry are addressed by the 5 disciplines of anthropology. Okay, so archaeology, cultural anthropology, linguistic, physical, and applied anthropology. So when we say archaeology, it examines the remains of ancient and historical human populations to promote an understanding of how humans have adapted to their environment and developed. While cultural anthropology, it promotes the study of a society's culture through their belief systems, practices, and positions. And when we say linguistic anthropology, it examines the language of a group of people and its relations to their culture. And physical anthropology, it looks into the biological development of humans and their contemporary variation. And last but not the least is the applied anthropology. No, it attempts to solve contemporary problems through the application of theories and approaches of the discipline. So these 5 sub-disciplines of anthropology is not new for you, no? Sa mga na-under na ko, gidiscuss na ni nato sa atong DISS. Okay, so dili na ni mga bag-o nga terms diha ninyo. Okay. Culture, no? You have always heard the word culture, no, being used in conversation. Okay, so culture is everything that a person learns as a member of a society. So look at this picture, no? What are the words can be associated with the photos given? When this festival does usually happen? How do they know that a religious feast requires these activities? Why do they celebrate religious feast? Okay. No, there is a left side is celebrating no, Senior Santo Niño, no, Sinulog. Okay. No, kalain-laing lugar na atay mga feast, no, diri sa maasin ato babulhon, no, o sa uban na apod. Okay, so feast, no, it is a periodic religious observances commemorating an event or honoring a deity, person, or thing. No, in the Philippines, feast is one of the traditions among Christians, Catholics, no. Kasagaran, mag-celebrate tag pista, no, in honoring sa atong mga saints, no, ni Mama Mary. Okay. So it became part of our Filipino culture, no, that passes from generation to generation, and until now, we Filipinos are still celebrating it. Okay. So again, culture, no, everything that a person learns and shares as a member of a society. So culture is everything. It is what a person has, does, and thinks as part of a society. So this implies all of a person's belief system, set of behaviors, and material possessions. As such, it can be said that culture is a powerful agent in shaping the decisions and actions of humans in a given situation. No, again, if kainumdum mo sa exam, no, the two types of culture is material culture or the non-material culture. So when we say material culture, it includes all the tangible and visible parts of culture, no, which includes clothes, foods, building. Okay, non-material, it includes all the intangible, no, parts of culture, no, which consists our values, ideas, and knowledge. Okay. So, the 6 characteristics of culture. So, culture is learned. Okay. So, culture is a set of beliefs, attitudes, and practices that an individual learns through his or her family, school, church, and other social institution. So, the process of learning your own culture is called enculturation. Okay, mana. As you interact with your immediate family and peers, you learn the values and accepted behaviors in your society. Due to the constant interaction between societies, culture can be modified to accommodate desirable traits from other culture. No? This process is called acculturation. No? We accommodate desirable traits from other culture. Okay. For example, no, music may be one of the most transferred forms of culture from one society to another. So, the inclination of some Filipinos, no, kita mga Pinoy, towards some elements of Korean culture, it has led to the acceptance of Korean pop songs despite their being performed in a foreign language, no? Sigara nato mga Pinoy are addict, no, sa Korean, no? Korean pop songs, Korean movies. Okay, so we accept kung unsang ilang culture, no? Okay. So, atong gi-accommodate, no, ilang desirable traits, no? And when we say deculturation, when the culture of the older generation comes into conflict with the needs and realities of the younger generation. So, deculturation happens. Now, where the reason for the culture has been lost, and even the cultural trait itself is in the process of being forgotten. Okay, no, for example, no, kasagaran sa ninjo, or dili na i-generalize. So, kasagaran sa mga teenager, no, kanang dili na mo bless, no? Bless is a sign of respect, no, nga atong gisunod up until now, no? Ato nang naandan culture. Okay. So, it comes to a conflict because some of the younger generation wala na nila gi-apply, no? It has been forgotten, no? Nawala na. Okay. Culture is shared, of course. This implies that a particular behavior cannot be considered as a culture if there is only one person practicing it. So, culture is shared intergenerationally. So, to share a culture, it must be taught to members of contemporary society who will in turn teach the younger generation. Okay, so the process by which the culture of an individual is formed, no? Parents, no, our parents teach us, no, with the culture that he or she experienced from other societies. So, as such, we have a set of knowledge and behaviors that corresponds to the combined culture of our parents, no, and of the adopted society. Okay. Culture affects biology. Humans are born into cultures that have values on beauty and body. So as such, they alter their bodies to fit into the physiological norms that are dictated by culture. Okay, so one of the most popular traditions in China is that foot binding among women that ensures their... Okay, so culture is adaptive. So, culture is adaptive. Culture is a tool for survival that humans use in response to the pressures of their environment. Both the material and the non-material parts of culture are influenced by the goal of humans to address their needs as dictated by their environment and their biology. So, we adapt, no? Then, culture is maladaptive. Okay, so culture can also cause problems for the people who subscribe to it, no? For example, is the car culture, no? In most societies, it's getting maladaptive as the environment gets more polluted, no? Okay, so pang-adapt naman na to, no? Daka nakadyo tang mga sakyanan karon. So this culture is highly maladaptive given the roads that cater to vehicles are not wide enough. No, as such, traffic problems are constant of our economic and personal functions. Okay. So, although considered as somewhat maladaptive, car ownership is still very much popular in the Philippines. Okay. Culture changes. So the final characteristic of culture is that it is never static. So this dynamism of culture is due to the changing needs of humans as they interpret and survive in their environment. So as such, culture is continuously reinvented by people, no? From the clothes that we wear to the food that we eat, culture can be seen as ever changing. Okay. Okay, so elements of culture. So beliefs, conceptions or ideas of people have about what is true in the environment around them. So daghan tang mga tinuuhan, no? Values describe what is appropriate or inappropriate in a given society or what ought to be. People, no, kita, live in culture wherein symbols are used to understand each other. Language, it is a shared set of spoken and written symbols. And then technology, it refers to the application of knowledge and equipment to ease the task of living and maintaining the environment. Okay, so napasadyo na itong kinabuhi tungod ng aning technology. And when we say norms, it is a specific rules or standards to guide to appropriate behavior. Okay. So form of norms, folkways, no, aka customs, they are norms for everyday behavior that people follow for the sake of tradition or convenience. So customary patterns that specify what is socially correct and proper in everyday life. So they are repetitive or the typical habits and patterns of expected behavior followed within a group of a community. So mores, they are strict norms that control moral and ethical behavior. So we have the capacity to know what is right or wrong behavior. So depende na nato o unsay atong buhaton, no? Basta kay baw na ta unsay sakto o unsay dili. Okay, tabos, norms that our society holds so strongly that violating it results in extreme disgust. Now, for example, one tabos in Islam is eating pork, no? Bawal sila mukaon og baboy. Okay. And then laws, it is a codified ethics, no? Formally agreed, written down and enforced by an official law enforcement or agency. Okay. So cultural variation. Okay, no? When we say ethnocentrism, no, it is a perspective that promotes an individual's culture as the most efficient and superior. So you know what? The variation in human condition promotes diversity and plurality in cultural tradition. So somewhat, this could lead to discrimination and ostracism. Okay. So, a person or an individual's culture no, as the most efficient and superior, no? It is the perspective of ethnocentrism. Okay, so individual exhibits ethnocentrism feels that his or her culture is most appropriate as compared with other culture. Okay. So, mo bitaw nang, katong dito ko sa China, one of their culture is kanang nakasarestaw, kanang kuan bitaw sa kutsara ang mga tao sa ilang bowl, rice bowl, or kanang sa panaksan ba, og mo ingana na gani, kuan sa kutsara ipatingog, it means sa ila gilamian sila, no, automatic na ngadto sa chef nga gilamian sila. But then og diri ta sa ato Philippines, og mangingan na tas karinderya, dili ka tan-awon, dili ka bantayan, no, naunsa man na siya, uy nagingana man, so di ba, so dili appropriate sa ato, but sa ila it is appropriate. Okay. Cultural relativism. So, when faced with a plurality of culture, we may adopt the conceptual tool of cultural relativism. So, it promotes the perspective that culture must be understood in the context of their locality. So, using this perspective makes us tolerant of the differing attitude and practices of others, no, a characteristics that is essential to a highly globalized world that we live in. Okay. And then race, this is one of another problematic form of classification for human group, no, is rooted in race. No, it was used as a form of human classification that was based on observable traits and characteristics. So some of the earlier categories include Caucasoid, Australoid, Mongoloid, and Negroid. So these categories merely reflect the differences in skin color, no? Kailahi tag skin color, size of skull, height, body frame, and other physical characteristics. So, due to the social context associated with racial groups, discrimination was further exacerbated, no? So, daghan na kaadjong discrimination, no? When we say racism, it creates a deep social cleavage that further marginalize the subject of racial oppression, no? Sa laing lugar bitaw, no, man-discriminate sila labi na og dili nato ka kulay, no, like for example sa mga black people, no, nawara ba pud na sila, no. So okay, so the question that everyone must answer in relation to racial variation is, are humans really different from one another? No, kanilahi bagyo data. Or our differences just skin deep, no? Naay puti, naay morena, naay itom, no? White people, black people. Kita nata na bilong sa mga morenahon. Okay. No? Okay, so biological egalitarianism. This perspective promotes the equality of our biological makeup despite of our ancestry. So human differences are a social fact that must be understood and must be accepted. Okay. So aspects of culture. So dynamic, flexible, and adaptive. Okay, so there are different aspects of culture as art, music, language, food, daily life, clothing, and religion, to name a few. So this aspect of culture show us that culture is dynamic, flexible, and adaptive. Okay, so culture constantly changes and adapts to the current. It continuously restores itself whenever customs are not fit in the current situation anymore, so it does not remain stagnant. Like for example, no? We are now inclined in using computers and tablets, so especially when playing games, no? Some children were not able to play street games anymore. So this pushed some game developers to introduce Filipino street games as video games. And also when it comes to language, we can also see how culture adapt to changing times, no? We have already developed new words related to the internet, no? Like memes, netizens, vines, and others, no? Nataydahan ka yung mga language, no? May mga binakla na itong mga language, no? Shudibayet, no? Korekom, okay. So, next. Aspect of culture, no? It can also be shared and contested. Okay. So, culture is learned and acquired through different interaction with people. Culture is a shared learning experience because culture constantly changes. So, we get to share the learning process with other people. So, for example, you have a classmate, no, who grew up in USA and only transferred to the Philippines a few months ago. So you help him. No, imo sa diyang gitabangan nga i-learn atong culture, no? Like for example, like playing outdoor games, like patintero, and making him try. And gipatry na to sa diyang sa atong mga Filipino dishes like adobo and sinigang, which is wala sa ila. Okay. So sociology. It is a scientific study of society, including patterns of social relationship, social interactions, and culture. So, it applies in its study of society and human behavior. Okay, so when we say society, it defined as a product of human interactions as human. We humans subscribe to the rules of our culture. So, it is an organization that caters to a human's need for belongingness in a group. Okay, so the subdisciplines of sociology. So now, the first one is the social organization. So within the field of sociology are specific inquiries on human behavior in groups. So studies that involve social structures such as institution, social groups, social stratification, social mobility, and ethnic groups, it fall within the scope of social organization. Next is the social psychology. So the study of the impact of group lives to a person's nature and personality is the focus of the social psychology. And when we say social change and social disorganization, it is the branch of sociology that inquires on the shift in social and cultural interactions and interruptions of its process through delinquency, deviance, and conflicts. And when we say human ecology, it pursues studies that relate human behavior to existing social institutions. So this is different from social psychology and social organization, because in that, the social institution in which human subjects belong to are treated in the context of an ecological, environmental element that defines human behavior. Okay, population or demography. It inquires on the interrelationship between populations' characteristics and dynamics with that of a political, economic, and social system. And then the last one is the applied sociology. It uses sociological research and methods to solve contemporary problems. So it often uses an interdisciplinary approach to better address our social problems. Okay, so society. So the elements of society. So social interactions. So compilation of ways and means by which humans interact within the confines of a society. So there are 5 patterns of social interactions, namely exchange, cooperation, competition, conflict, and coercion. So when we say exchange, it is the most basic pattern of socialization. Okay, so exchange is our expectation that whenever we do something good, we will receive something good in return, no? Di buhatag maayo, of course, expected nga we will receive something good in return. Okay. So cooperation, no? It is when people or groups of people work together to achieve a common goal, no? Cooperation is considered to be essential for human survival because without cooperation, social life would be unmanageable. Okay. So, like for example, no, the cooperation between the husband and wife, no, sa atong mama ug papa, in raising us, no, children. So, without their cooperation, their child would not grow up the way they want him or her to be. Okay. Competition. So, competition may be viewed as the opposite, no, opposite of cooperation. Because instead of working together towards a common goal, competing individuals or group battle to achieve the target that only one can have, no? Dili jud na malikayan ng competition, no? For example, kanang sa ato bitong barangay, na tindahan diri. Makahiri nga magtinda, no? Pikas na pod, napoy tindahan, no? Sigkakilid rang mga tindahan. So, nakipagkompetensya. Okay. But in a way nga, nga naman lagi because nanginabuhi man. Okay, like dili po sa classroom. No? Nakipagkompetensya ka within sa imong classmates. Because ganahan kag ikaw ra jud permi mo top. No? Which is somewhat usahay masubraan, dili na maadyo makipagkompetensya. Okay. Conflict arises when people disobey rules. Okay, so it controls a person by force or hurt other people just to achieve their goals. So conflict isn't always considered as bad, no? The existence of conflict can strengthen the unity within a group because they are threatened, no, by an external factor. Okay, for example, ingani no kasagaran ni sa atong mga magsuon, no? Like for example, mag-away ta tungod sa TV, no? Kay ikaw lain namang gusto nga channel, si Jalen po diyang gusto nga channel. So conflict arises between you and your parents. Okay, so but ug kasab-an na mo, kasab-an na ganita, kita sa tumig sug-on mo team up, no? Dawa may tagwa man ma, okay ra man ma. Okay, kasab-an naman. No? And when we say coercion, it happens when a person uses threats or force to persuade another person. So people usually coerce others when they cannot achieve their goals on their own. Like for example, imong giporsige imong igsuon nga mobuhat inganing household chores, no? By threatening him or her nga imong sultian hong mama nga nanguyab na ka or na failed ka sa exam or unsa pa na diha, no? That is called coercion. Okay. So social organization, so this concept refers to the interrelationship parts of a society. So the society is an organization itself. It is structurally divided into layers of context and positions that help perpetuate its existence. Okay. So roles, group, institution. Okay. So when we say rules, each status prescribed as a set of accepted behaviors that define the individual's responses and inclinations. So this set is called rules. Okay. So for example, the role of a government official is to ensure that the people's needs are addressed through government projects and policies. Okay, so if the government official fails to perform this role, so and then conflict occurs, no? So in some instances in our country, government officials were evicted, no? Nahawa sa ilang posisyon because they failed to perform the roles as expected na ilang perform, no? Na failed sila perform sa ilang roles. Okay, so group, when we say group, it is the basic unit of an organization, no? It includes at least two individuals who are in constant interaction based on their statuses and roles. So, like for example, our school, we have typically consist of two groups, no? Which is the teachers and the students. So, you interact with your teachers based on your role as a student. Okay, your manner of speaking and the content of your statements are different when you are interacting with your classmates from when you interact with your teachers. Okay. So, dapat naagyoy ga, no? Respect. Okay. Ano sa institution? It established when roles, statuses, and groups are perpetuated within the context of society. So, when we say institution, this is the building blocks of a society. As it's true, this institutions are also in constant recreation as human interactions are affected by external forces such as environmental traits. So, an example of institution is family, government, marriage, education, and religion. Okay. And then social structure, it is the determining factor by which every other part of society gain its context. So this is the foundation of every society from which emanates the possible roles, statuses of institutions and organization. So the common analogy used to describe social structure and the elements of society is that of a building. So building in itself can be considered as the society. So the pillars and foundation of the building is equated to the social structure, no? Why mahimo nga building, no? O walay mga kabilya, mga unsa pa na diha. Okay. So individuals, no, are creating new systems and patterns of interactions. So as we interact with others and institution, we individual is capable of remaking the world. Okay. So, identity formation. Okay. So, when we say social identity, it is a person's notion of who or she is in the society. Okay. So, as you have learned through enculturation and socialization, individual learns the norms of his or her society. So the compilation of the values, attitudes, and beliefs that individuals receive from their family, peers, and community enables them to create a personal identity that simultaneously separates them from other members of group and incorporates them in system. Okay. So there are two types of identity. Okay. So primary and secondary. So when we say primary, it consists of the roles and statuses that an individual learns as child, no? This includes a core social identities that are often ascribed to an individual such as sex, no? Male or female, age or edad, then atong ethnicity. So, as childs get enculturated and socialized with his or her society's norm, he or she participates in the construction of his or her secondary identity. So, when we say secondary identity, this includes rules and statuses that are achieved as occupation, educational background, economic status, and gender. Okay, Okay, so this duality of identity produces the me and I dichotomy that humans have. Okay, so I, my being and my existing, the existential, no I. So my meaning making and my values, the cultural I. Me, my behavior and my activity, the doing me. And then my social roles and public persona, the performing me. So these categories promote a holonic concept of the self. No, the self is both a whole and a part. So the self in the context of the personal pertains to the wholeness of an individual's identity. So this leads back to the uniqueness of every individual. So the self in the context of it being a part of a whole reflects on the ascribed roles that it plays within the context of society. So identities are formed through interactions and social events. Okay. No, again, socialization and enculturation, society is different from culture. So within a society, there are many diverse culture, while the members of a society share many of the same expectations and experiences, as the cultural groups creates one that differentiate them from others in the community. So when we say enculturation, it is the process by which an individual learns the traditional content of a culture and assimilate its practice and value. Okay. So when we say socialization, it is the process by which an individual is oriented and taught by his or her society norm. Okay. Enculturation, no ato ni si Janggi adapt, no atong gi practice, no? Okay, so as we are in the society, no, daghan kaadyo mga norms or the standard, no, nga nung nikuan man ta for us nga maaksepta, no, sa atong society. Okay. Okay, so social organization. So there are different social forms of social organization, so according to their manifest and latent functions. So when we say social groups, it consists of individuals who are united by their similar characteristics, and this serves as the basis of their constant interaction. Okay, so however, not all individuals who share similar characteristics interact with one another. So this phenomenon is observed in social categories. So for example, our barkada, we may be classified as a social group. So barkada is a famous term, no, that most Filipinos in our youth use to refer to a group who share the same social inclination. So the fondest memories of one's youth would often be of the experiences they shared together with our barkada, no? So we have beautiful memories, no? Magud man na or mabad together with our barkada. So mo nang dili makalimtan atong barkada for life. Okay. So when we say social category, you do not normally interact with them. Okay. For example, your fellow high school students. So we are being categorized. Like for example, sa atong eskwelahan, lahi ang elementary department, ang junior department, senior high school department, and then college department. So we will be able to interact with each other if there is a social activities organized by our school, no? To promote transformation of our relations from being distant members of a social category. Okay, so we are being categorized man, no? So, dili ta normally mo interact with them. So, we can interact with them if there is only a social activities sa atong eskwelahan. So, nasabtan. So, another classification of human grouping is the social aggregate. So, in this, individuals gather in the same place but are neither interacting nor sharing similar characteristics. So, for example, when we are having a shopping, no? Or people gathered in a shopping mall. Okay, og nata sa mall, of course, magka-interact but without any conversations. pwera lang og nakakay kaila, no? You just say hi or ingana, okay? Or mangutana ta, no? Kung how much this cost, ingana. So sa mall jud labi nagdako, no, maglabay-labay rata, no? Okay, so that is an example of social aggregate. We are gathered in the same place, but we are neither interacting nor sharing similar characteristics. And then, social networks, it consists of individuals who have dyadic relationships that are interacting with other relationships with structure. So, simply stated, a social network is a social structure consisting of people who have varying degrees of relations and interrelationship. So, there are 3 types of human social groupings, no? So, the first one is the in-group, no? An in-group is the social group in which an individual directly affiliates and expresses loyalty to, no? So, the members use titles, external symbols, and dress to distinguish themselves from the out-group. No, aron ma-distinguish na to sila, judge mo na siya kay naikuan, ingana manamit, military na siya kay ingana iyang buhok, no? So, naay dress code, naay language, no? Okay, for example, sa mga judgments, no? Loose shirts, the way mo storya, no? Pinakuan, no? Diba? Iyo po, yeah. Musta po, no? Okay. So, example po is military groups, no? It can also be seen as having a very strong in-group culture. So, ang ilang bonding, no, sa military, they create one another with their enhanced shared ideals, practices, and experiences. So, they have their prescribed haircut, no? So, propriha silag buhok, no, maklaro ka, army ni, ingana, military groups ni, tungod sa buhok, tungod sa tindog, okay. So, ato silang ma-distinguish because of their physical attributes, no? The way sila manamit, sa ilang buhok, and etc. Okay, so the second one is the out-group. Okay, it is an individual that is not part of, no? Group that an individual is not part of. So, they associated negative attributes, no? So, individuals from an out-group are usually considered malevolent, even if they are not. Okay, so, because members of the in-group perceive themselves as diverse and complex, individuals are prone to being stereotyped and worse dehumanized as members of the in-group refer to them solely on the basis of their projected characteristics. So, members of the out-group are described as a group without any differentiation. Okay. While the reference group, the behavior of an individual can be shaped by the set of behaviors and beliefs of a group that such an individual considers as an ideal. So this ideal group is called the reference group, no? They used by an individual as a standard to measure his or her actions. Okay. So, example ani, systems for ranking the efficiency of universities have allowed for the creation of reference group in the academic field. So, universities listed as the best among their counterparts are held as reference point by which others attempt to restructure their programs and objectives. Okay. And then, primary groups, you know? Group membership has been a key element in fostering the development of social nature and ideals of an individual. So each individual is part of a primary group and a secondary group from which he or she learns the culture of his or her society. So when we say primary groups, are the direct source of an individual's social skills and knowledge. So the bonds that an individual forms with members of these groups extend over long periods of time. Okay, so individual primary groups usually consist of family, of course, our friends, our peers, classmates, and our church. Okay, so due to the connection between the individuals and the members of this group, primary relationship are forms from this social set. So there is a familiarity present in these relations. Forms of interactions and communications are often informal and holistic. Okay. When we say secondary groups, it is more formal in context. The relationship and interactions in them are limited to a particular role that an individual plays within the group. So this may consist of relationships that are temporary and practical, such as the client and an agent, tagsara magkita, but with formal interaction. Okay. A tenant and a landlord, Okay, so a researcher and an informant. Okay, so which is face-to-face interaction is limited and communication is often formal. So, tagsara. Okay, so such detached forms of relationship are usually observed in highly industrialized societies, wherein individualism is given primacy over community engagement. Okay. Then another is small group and large group. So the type and extent of human interaction depends on the size of the group that they belong in. Okay, so a large group tends to promote detachment through indirect interaction. Okay, so family is an example of a small groups, and a village or barangay is an example of large group. Okay. So the agents of socialization. Okay, so number 1 is atong family, It is the most important agent of socialization. So atong pamilya, they are responsible for teaching us gunad pang kagamay hangtod karon, how to survive, to function and care for ourselves. Okay. So they provide of first system values, norms, and beliefs. Okay, so daghantang nakatunan sa atong pamilya. Okay. Community, peers, it gives us an opportunity to form relationship with others on our own terms. So we learn things without the direction of an adult, We learn how to socialize with our peers, or friends, within the community. Okay, school, to transfer knowledge and teach skills. So diri sa eskwelahan gitudloan ta, gimatuto ta ug unsay maadyo ug unsay dili. Okay, so where we learn academic curriculum prepared by your teachers or administrators, and also social skills, interaction with teachers, collaboration, and to think critically. Okay. Then mass media, so it includes television programs, magazines, radio, websites, music, movies, social media. So it influence of individuals' preferences, and it also relays impersonal information in a one-way direction to passive audience. So labi na karon, we are very active when it comes to media, social media. Okay, so social media have proven to be the effective source of manipulating people behavior. Okay, and then religion, of course, sa atong religion, gimatuto pud ta, gunsay sakto og dili, labi na natay 10 commandments, Okay, atong mga values, atong mga gituuhan, we have the sense of morality. We know what is right and what is wrong. Okay. So status and roles. So status, it is an individual's position in his or her society, which carries with it set of defined rights and obligations. So roles, it is the set of expectation from people who occupy a particular status, Like for example, okay, like kami, injo teachers, naman mo sa eskwelahan, among role is being your second parents, while you are away from your parents, Like for example, sa mga landlady, mga landlords, they're also considered as your second parents. Okay, for example, kung say mahitabo ninyo, no? Sila'y kuanan. Okay? Dito man mo nagpuyo, no? Nagboard man mo. Okay. So, as humans are capable of occupying various statuses simultaneously. So, we are given a status. So, kami teachers, our role is not just to educate you, but we're also your guardian, no? Okay. So, conformity and deviance. So, I will ask you, do you act differently from what others expect of you? How do you respond to your statements and actions? So, these are questions that must be considered when discussing the concept of deviance and conformity. So, when we say conformity, it is the act of following, no, ang pagsunod sa rules and goals of one society. So, this behavior is often met with rewards and acceptance from other members of the society. Okay. And when we say deviance, it is an act of violation, no? Violating the prescribed social norms. So, act of deviance are often associated with a stigma. Okay, when we say stigma, it is a strong sense of disapproval, no? Or non-conforming behavior from members of a society. So, it may even be considered a crime or a violation of a law. Okay, social control. It is to maintain order and stability. So, social control is needed. Okay. So, internalization, it is an integral part of communicating and incorporating social norms to an individual's personality. And somewhat will come up to sanctions, no? So, it is in the process that an individual is made to automatically conform to the dictates of his or her society through a cost-benefit orientation. So, one key element in ensuring that individuals are able to internalize social norms is the establishment of sanctions. For example, dili ka mabuhat sa imong assignment, no? What happens if you decide not to do your homework? So, of course, the possible outcomes includes nga you will get 0 from the activity, no? And you're being labeled sa imong classmate as lazy, no? Considering all these possible repercussions of not completing your homework, would you opt to complete it or still sidestep it? Okay, so morning na sanctions, no? So, despite an individual's disinclination to conform, so when the sanction is strong, there is a high possibility that he or she will decide to follow the norm, no? So, sanctions are categorized in 4 types. So, types of sanctions. Formal sanctions. So, these are the reward or forms of punishment that are formally awarded by an institution such as government, a council, or establishment. Okay, formal positive sanction, no? A reward given by an institution to encourage conformity. Like, for example, recognition of honors, no? Gipagaan kag medal because you are an outstanding, no? Sa imong trabaho, no? Or sa imong pag-eskwela, no? Gi-promote ka sa imong workplace because you do an excellent performance. Okay, that is a formal positive sanction. So, you are rewarded because of your performance. And when we say informal sanctions, these are the rewards and forms of punishment that are spontaneously given by an individual or a group of people as a response to a behavior that was either accepted or disapproved. Okay. Positive sanction, these are the sanctions or statements that reward a particular behavior which reinforce its repetition. Okay, so when we say formal negative, a punishment given by an institution to inform to enforce conformity. So imprisonment for a crime committed. Of course, mapriso ka og nakay gibuhat nga dili maayo. So payment of fines for offenses committed, no? Like magpataka ka og labog, no? Na ay fines. Okay, like dili sa tong school, na kay fines if malate ka, dili ka ka-attend og flag ceremony. Okay, or any other events nga gikuan sa atong school. Okay. Or you are being fired, no? Gipahawa ka sa imong trabaho because you are not doing your job, no? They are unsatisfactory sa imong gihatag nga service. Okay. So when we say informal positive, a reward given by an individual group that encourage conformity. So affirmation, no? No affirmation nod from a supervisor. Okay, so cheers from teammates for scoring a shot. Standing ovation, no? Like in a mga program, no? No? Standing ovation, that is an example of informal positive sanctions. Okay. An informal negative, it is a punishment given by an individual group to coerce conformity. So we gossip about a bad behavior naman libak ta. Kaya wa si jay kuan, wa si jay ayo ingana. Okay, so usapod when we are being grounded by a parent, no? Ridicule from peers, no? Okay, that is an example of informal negative. Okay, so the relationship of culture and society. So of course, naaga jud sila'y relationship. They are connected. Okay. Culture and society are two closely interrelated concepts. For culture to exist and to be developed, it needs human interaction. And it needs people to interact with one another. And it needs people to practice it continuously. So without a society practicing their common culture, the culture may cease to exist. Okay. Culture is also essential to society because without culture, society will be dull and will not continue to thrive. And a society without culture is like a body without a soul and vice versa. Culture and society need each other so they can both develop and prosper. So they are interrelated concept. They have a relationship, and that would be all.